Hi, I'm Marlene Gabauer from the Geek and Review, and I have Sam Moore here from Legal Technology Hub, who's going to tell us a little bit about analysis of token usage and model selection.
That's right. Thank you, Marlene. Well, it is tokens everywhere. I think spurred on by the launch of Claude for Legal, but certainly going back further than that. There's an issue in the legal industry today around token usage in Gen AI tools. And in the Legal Technology Hub advisory team, we've had several conversations in the last week or two about this, both in terms of frontier models, but also in terms of the legal AI platforms. And the topics we're discussing with clients right now tend to fall into three interconnected topics. First is model selection, because a lot of these products give the users a choice of which model they want to use for a given prompt. But most users of these products really have no idea what the difference is. I've seen law firm clients whose users just pick the most sophisticated model for everything, toggle on every optional feature available, and then are confused as to why responses are taking a long time and why they're hitting token limits very, very quickly. The second's around model context windows. I've had several conversations lately about what a context window even is, how it can create drift when it gets crowded in a chat's context window, and why that really matters for legal use cases, which often involve uploading quite large documents, which take up a lot of space in those context windows. And finally, efficient token usage. Law firms and law departments, I think, are generally not that accustomed to this kind of pay-as-you-go model in technology, not unless you're like me and you recall when the big legal research platforms were on a pay-per-search basis. So now those users are running into high-cost overages on the frontier models in particular, and they're realizing that low sticker price per month is not their reality, not when their users don't know how to use those tools efficiently and how to control cost. So, as well as delivering advisory work on these topics on a one-to-one basis, we're actually working on a series of articles for LTH Premium about these topics, which will then combine into a sort of playbook for our subscribers to keep handy when they're working with Gen AI tools. And we expect to start putting out that content in early June. And if people want to know more about LTH Advisory and what we can do, they can always get in touch with us by going to legaltechnologyhub.com or by finding me on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Sam, for keeping us informed about this important issue.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the Geek and Review, the podcast focused on innovative and creative ideas in the legal industry. I'm Marlene Gabauer.
And I'm Greg Lambert. And today we are thrilled to welcome the leadership of the American Association of Law
Yay!
Librarians, or AALL. Joining us today is Jenny Foster, the 2025-2026 AALL President, and joining her is Jessica Whytock, the AALL Vice President and President-elect.
Jenny and Jessica are here to preview the upcoming 2026 AALL Annual Meeting and Conference taking place in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio this July, and to discuss the strategic direction of the association. So, Jenny and Jessica, welcome to the show.
Aloha, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it. Big fans of the Geek and Review. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and Marlene went to law school in Cleveland, so bad memories there. So if you
Not about law school. No, it's just
Great.
Oh, well, Jenny, welcome back. You joined us last year, and you were in Jessica's shoes. So let's talk a little bit about the presidency that you've had for almost a year now. So I know you made a massive push for transparency and open communications within the association. In this time, I know you doubled down on like the e-briefings and the know-it-all newsletter. Making sure that people have a direct line to leadership. So, on top of that, you did volunteering and just a whole lot going on. So, talk to us a little bit about, that the internal policies that you've set up, the external policies, and how your year has gone.
I have had, okay, well, how my year has gone? That's a loaded question, Greg.
It's been great.
Anybody's like, how's my year? How's my day gone? But going back to transparency and open communication, your question, I was really thinking about. the bones of communication and inviting people to participate in conversations with leadership, they were already there. And then with Jessica's help, like working together intentionally, we were just trying to uncover, remove any barriers that might have, what is the word? We just wanted to be clear and intentional and inviting people to be able to talk and to share their perspectives and to, like you said, reach leadership. And one of the ways that we were thinking about engaging members was through volunteership and intentional volunteership. So I really think that, well, as you know, Greg, right? You get elected to this position, right? And then, and law librarians like to plan. We love a plan. So
Yeah.
we're not even in our roles. And then the very first thing we're supposed to do is think about our vice chairs, appointing all the vice chairs to the 42 juries and committees who are carrying out the massive work of our organization and thinking about who we're inviting into that space. And then they will be working eventually alongside us in our presidential year. So I know Jessica had to say, I'm not speaking for you, Jessica. I'm just like, I know we were really aligned on when we were making those appointments, thinking about where members are in the organization. What setting are they in? Are they newer, experienced? Are they mid-career? Are they seasoned professionals? What type of library? And really trying to be super intentional about inviting them to participate, right? Because for the newer folks and mid-career folks, these are our future leaders of our association, and they need to know, like, and be invited to share space there. And then our seasoned professionals are, they're the mentors. We're the mentors helping people matriculate through our organization, right? And so when we invite folks into that space, in the leadership space, communication with leadership and all of that, but it's such an opportunity to learn. Like I think about the spaces that I've done and you suddenly get put in a room with people you never would have been in a room before if you were just in your not little, like I have a dream job, right? But if I was just in my career track at the Hawaii State Judiciary, I would have never met Jessica. What a travesty, okay? Because she's brilliant, lovely, and I can't wait to hand off the reins to you in July, Jessica. But I think about that also in my first committee, right? The special committee on diversity, the leadership development committee, like all these volunteers from all walks of life. And then we want to create a space where people can share their perspectives, come to a disagreement sometimes because we have passionate members, but through that disagreement, really tackle the work of our association to come out with a better outcome. And we can't do that if we don't communicate clearly, if we don't make space for communication in a way that's helpful and helps each other, right? Like recognize each other. And that connection that happens in that work is what strengthens AALL for now and in the future. Did you want to add anything, Jessica? I'm just like, bleh.
I think the question was about your leadership year, so
Yeah, no, but that's the other thing too. We are all in connection with one another. So I'm the historic election, right? I recognize that I was so humbled, the first resident from Hawaii to be elected to this role in 120 years. But before me came different, fabulous, amazing leaders like yourself, Greg, BIPOC leaders. Like it's not done in a vacuum. We're all here in relationship with one another, and that's really what I was focusing on this year. Is like how do we invite more voices to the table to further the legal information profession.
Jenny, I actually will add something.
Yes, please.
Jenny is all, so much effusive love and hearts. And what I have been really so impressed at seeing is behind all of this is a really smart, thoughtful person who has a vision and a plan, and also has an astounding amount of institutional knowledge that you just share at the key decision making point. So, the one thing that I hope that people understand is that Jenny's a tremendously strong leader and that we've been so lucky this year to have Jenny, and that as much as we love the aloha and the hearts, there's wisdom there that has made a big difference in what we've done this year. I know.
I know. I know.
And luckily, she's very quiet and muted, and
I know. She says all of the words, so I don't have to say them.
Well, AAL has always, been very strong in terms of their advocacy arm and, historically has had a very strong voice in Washington, even with the transitions in the government relations role. And I was part of that committee at one time. Your administration hasn't missed a beat. So, you've been partnering with the ALA, issuing statements on IMLS funding, opening up communications with ALA about filing amicus briefs. So, how is AALL ensuring that the advocacy needs of law librarians remain at the forefront at the national level?
Well, the first is really embracing it as we know we have a vacuum operationally with our advocacy position, but we also had a vacancy with our executive director, which is really important. So we had to cross that bridge first. But
One thing
even
at a
so,
time.
one thing at a time, but it's side by side with that, we were still working towards advocacy. So this is my love letter to the GRC, which you used to be on, Marlene. You were on a GRC committee.
Back in the day, yeah, I was. It was
Thank
my
you.
first committee, yeah.
Oh my god, and it's so amazing, right? You learn so much. And so
Mhm.
this is my love letter to the chairs, Chris Lund and Christy Chamorro, for their tremendous work this year, just supporting them. And especially, they just did an advocacy training. So shameless plug for e-learning platform. They just did a national advocacy training with one of the congressmen from New York, I believe. But anyway, but really consciously and intentionally meeting with members. So they've been doing these chapter meet and greets across the nation to really have a better understanding of what are the advocacy needs. Like things have changed since when I first started, probably since you were in the committee, right, Marlene? So we
Oh,
really need
I'm
to
sure it has.
so we need to evaluate like what is effective, where are our common goals, but that's also outlined in our strategic plans because we have an advocacy pillar in our strategic plan. So this is like working side by side, thinking about what is the taking the temperature nationally of our membership, where they are, where can we come together, what do we need to move on. Nurturing and reopening that communication with ALA was really something important to do this year. We're so happy those channels have opened. Thinking about other sister organizations that are in the advocacy space and aligning ourselves with them and building coalitions, right? Because we're more visible when when we come together, right? We just as RBG, right? Like advocate for change, but do it in a way for people to join you. And just thinking about our board action side by side as this is going on, we've been grappling with what does advocacy look like? How can we meet the needs of our strategic plan? And then our amazing executive director who has all this experience with the advocacy and the work that she did before she's coming with us, and she alongside our board vision around advocacy and the nuts and bolts of the work that we're doing at organization through GRC, they can kind of all coalesce and align so we can keep moving this forward. So even though we've had a vacancy for this year, we're intentionally focusing on how can we fill this gap, but at the same time still meeting some of the advocacy efforts that we hold so dear. So we are working on this. Like I'm so happy with how this is going, and you will see more. Remember, advocacy is a marathon, especially now. It's a marathon, not a race. And so every little step that we can make will have a difference. And I'm really pleased with the work that we've done this year. And
Yeah.
then I get to hand it off to Jessica.
Yeah, that was one of the things, Jenny, you and I had in common because we had a search for an executive director when I was.
Yes, that is
So
correct. Yes, yes.
fun times. That's
But
always interesting to watch that transition go on. But I wanna pull us back to the conference that's coming up in July in Cleveland, and your theme is leading with Aloha. And so I just want to know, what does this mean? What does that theme mean for you personally? And how did you get that to be reflected? And I think there's over 65 programs at the meeting this year. So how does that play into the theme, into the presentations?
thank you so much, Greg. I love this question. This could be like a whole podcast on itself, so I promise not to take up all the time. But going back to how law librarians love to plan. So, right now Jessica's already thinking about next summer, right, to Philadelphia. And then in the VP role, I was already thinking about Cleveland 2026, right? So, and then I was trying to think about, okay, this gift that's been given to me to be the leader of our association, and then I always approach leadership as a service mentality, like what are the gifts that I can offer to the membership, to the organization. And then so remember this is back in the fall of 2024. There was a lot going on. My vice chair was in Chicago planning for Portland. And so I was just walking my dog along the Koalau, beautiful Koalau, thinking about all the changes that were about to come in 2025, remembering how chaotic it was in terms of access to legal information, thinking it was probably going to come back. I'm just being descriptive. We know like government information exists one day and then it's not on another day. And I just realized how much chaos was going to be there. And then also thinking about being from Hawaii, what was the gift that I could give? And I just it was like, "La, we will lead with aloha because I've been in other conversations when we talk about unpredictability, chaos, fear. And I've heard these words come out of my mouth. I'm like, we're not hardwired for unpredictability and chaos, but actually we are. And you know what those hardwires are? Fight, flight, or fawn. And those might keep you alive, but they're not a meaningful way to live and connect with others. So the antidote to unpredictability and chaos, in my mind, is meaningful connection. Because when we come together, a meaningful connection, and we're elevating one another, like that is the antidote to the fear and the unpredictability, because we can see with our own eyes that we can make positive differences in the colleagues that we work with, the communities that we serve. And Aloha is all about nurturing that meaningful connection. So here's my law librarian story time, okay? So
Um,
Aloha, which has been nurtured by indigenous population, Kanakama Ole, now known as Native Hawaiians, for generations, right? It's nothing new, but it was codified in the Hawaii Revised Statutes in 1986. So this year makes the 40-year anniversary. And the reason that they did that is because they were infusing Aloha into the highest levels of government decision making. And it says it in the statute, right? Like it wants everybody to think about Aloha in in the fulfillment of their responsibilities and obligations as service to the people, the legislature, the governor, the chief justice, everybody. And Aloha is, they even defined it. So I'm going to tell you what the definition is. So Aloha, so akahai, meaning kindness to be expressed with tenderness, lokahi, meaning unity to be expressed with harmony, olu olu, meaning agreeable, expressed with pleasantness, ha'a ha'a, meaning humility to be expressed with modesty, ahonui, meaning patience to be expressed with perseverance. But all of those things, kindness, unity, being agreeable, humility, patience, what that does is it invites that connection piece together. And to face one another with that in mind centered, it takes two things. It takes courage because it's really hard to be your authentic self, I think. I think it's very brave to do that. And secondly, it really opens up the space to learn from each other, to be curious about all the different perspectives that we bring to the table. And leading with Aloha in terms of our programming, it really does all the things. Like, we're doing all those things already. We're bringing in programming where, again, the beginners, the mid-career, the experienced law librarians can learn from. All the different library settings, all the different types of work that we do, collaboration. I'm really excited about the work that we're doing here, and the intentional programming that our AMPC put together. And I'm just gonna just shout out to Kelly Leon, who's our chair. It just was this synergy. Like, she's brilliant and wonderful and very intentional about how she led the committee, making sure that there were all these different voices that were incorporated into decision making around programming. But she has her family roots here in Hawaii. Her dad's half Hawaiian, and she's grown up coming here all these years. And it just happened to be like this. Oh, I'm getting like chicken skin already. Like this synergy that we were together to do this program for us, and really to highlight and elevate our members to come together in that connection piece. So we've got, the discussion dens and the hot topics that range from AI courses to access challenges and legal scholarship, balancing physical collection needs with tightening budgets, Gen AI, and really thinking about how we integrate it and how we use it and how do we guide our institutions. And we have some couple really interesting, Marlene, because you were there in Cleveland. We were just talking about it, about like all the different programmings that local to Cleveland. How do you say the river? I want to say it correctly.
Cuyahoga.
Cuyahoga River, and how it was on fire, and all the EPA being created out of that. And then there was this really dark and dirty serial killers thing happening way back in the 30s, and like the policies that were happening to try and figure out to solve that mystery. I mean, there's something there that's like that elevates the community there, the work that we can do, and then also law librarians in general. I mean, that's what was incorporated. Aloha was incorporated, but really, this is what we do every year when we come together in person and our annual meeting, we come together for that connection piece.
Yeah.
Okay,
A
sorry, that was really long.
uh,
We need to cut stuff
couple
down.
of comments there. One, I may need you to make sure that the transcript spells everything correctly about the
For
Aloha.
sure, for sure.
And two, I think a lot of people, well, one, when they think librarians, most people think, oh, I would love to be a librarian because I love to read books. Well, that's kind of like the furthest thing from what we actually do. But also with AALL, with there really being the three pillars with the government librarians, the private librarians, and the academic librarians. plus our, our vendor allies and things like that, that there's this huge diversity, and it makes planning for these types of events really a challenge, but I think it comes together really well because you get these completely different views from what's under the umbrella of the same profession. So it's very unique, I think, to this group of people and just how diverse they are.
Can I sort of just and that diversity actually, I think for me is one of the greatest strengths of our association, especially as an academic law librarian. What is going on in the other libraries? I need to know about that because that will absolutely dictate how we prepare students to go out in the world and do the life-changing, the world-changing things that they're going to do. And AALL has always provided this amazing opportunity for us to get together with our colleagues at different libraries and learn from them and see what their needs and interests are. And because of AALL and the people I've met there, I I had a panel this year in my advanced legal research class, and it came together so quickly because everyone knew me from different programs that we had done together, and came in and just did a great job teaching my students about what life will look like when they're out in the world. And so I love the fact that we are such a diverse group representing all different types of libraries because it has added to my professional existence so much. Yeah, and now I know Jenny.
So much. I feel the same. I love learning. And you know what? Especially with the emergence of AI, I had Greg on a CLE here in Hawaii a couple, was that 2 years
Yeah,
ago, Greg? But I love hearing what the firms are doing with it,
yeah.
and also, and I'm doing reconnaissance for the courts, so I'm learning about it. But no, absolutely everything that you said, Jessica and Greg, thank you.
Well, I'm gonna stick on the conference theme, and I will say sort of incorporating, like, the locality into the conference, I just think is just brilliant because, like, everyone is gonna be different that way, so it'll be very interesting to see how this works in Cleveland, but, you know, we've been hearing buzz, like, before anything even starts, the main sessions, we've been hearing a lot about the pre-conference activities. So lots of buzz about, hands-on pre-conference workshops focused on copyright and fair use. And also the return of the PLLIP summit. So the private law librarians summit. So hooray for that. And so it seems like there's a lot going on and but people have to choose. So what are some of the must attend events happening before the official opening session?
You are so right, Marlene. I'm so excited. Yes, you're right. The return of the flip, it's gotten a lot of garnished a lot of attention, and
Oh,
people
we
are
call it
super
plip
excited.
now? Okay.
I guess, I don't
I
know.
was gonna say plip. We always
I
called it PLLIP, but oh, that's
oh, I'm
good.
sorry. I heard them calling flip. I'm the
I
government.
like plip better
Just
actually.
tell me, you can tell me. I think their theme is turn it up, amplify your practical skills and processes. And I think that's a term that I saw. I just got back from Canada actually, and they were also talking a lot about AI, but really focusing on that practical applications. Like, tell me what you works for you. How do you use it? I want to see what you're talking about. And so I think because of that, that's why they decided to do that. And then there's three others, but I don't know. There's a library copyright and fair use, which is kind of an extension from last year. Like last year was kind of like a 101, right? Like beginner understanding. And then this one is more the advanced level, how fair use shows up in day-to-day decisions and all of that, and building confidence through real world scenarios. And then I'm really super interested in the refocusing in the intention economy because I feel like that one is about, it's really us responding to the themes that we're dealing with every day. Like I had to turn off my phone. I had to close off 12 windows before we came onto this podcast, right? Because it's a real thing. And like, what are those strategies to help your learners in such a digital, distracting kind of scenario of life? But my favorite is my love letter to Connell because that's our conference of newer law librarians. So if anyone is thinking about coming, if you're a first time attendee, if you switch careers or you're a newer law librarian, I would love to see you there. And it is not a contest, but I hear that we have more Connell registrants this year in Cleveland than we did last year. Again, not a contest. I'm just so excited that folks can come there and have that shared experience to kick off the conference. Like, I remember being at my first Connell. I love meeting newer law librarians come to us. I still remember meeting people at last year's Connell, name drop Devin Murphy, and then
Mhm.
also there's others that I met too, and it was just I just love welcoming them in. So I'm super excited about that.
It's not a contest, but you won, right?
So
Jess,
those are
did you
some
have
of the
anything you wanted to add?
I'm really excited about Connell, and I'm excited that we have so many people participating. And I'm very, very excited. I mean, everything sounds great. I know that we're going to be really busy, so we don't get to engage as much as we want to participating in a lot of the programming. But getting Clip back at the summit back, I think is just feels great. But all of the pre-conference programming feels absolutely great, and I think it's one of those situations where folks will find themselves having to make tough choices.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, from a personal perspective, if anyone's on the fence about going to Connell, I highly recommend that you
Yeah.
do. I did for a few years did the session about like what to expect at at AALL for all of the junior people, and it was a blast. So I will, yeah, and you meet people as you said, you meet people, and it's like then you're like lifelong friends. So
Yeah.
go.
I
Yep.
suspect we all who went to Connell remember our Connell experience, so I know I do.
Yep. Even when it was the previous century, like mine was, and mine was in '99 in DC, and I
You
think I met Mark Gettman there, and he and
oh,
I are still hanging out. So,
you're a 20th century attendee. My
so
daughter. Yeah, whatever.
So, Jessica, before we turn to you, I want this actually applies to both you and Jenny. So, Jenny, you know that when you hand over the gavel in Cleveland, that no one will want to talk to you anymore.
That's totally fine with me.
I was going to say it's perfectly fine. So
But yet
Jessica,
you
just
will still have
remember.
duties.
This
Well,
is
yeah,
going to
it
be
is true.
your
I know.
huge year. Everyone's going to want to talk to you, but don't worry. At the end of it, you'll hand the gavel over to the next person, and then no one will talk to you again. So just
That's
words
okay.
of wisdom.
I'm signed up. There. I'm Jessica's #1 supporter. That is what my job is next year, and I'm so looking forward to it.
So Jessica, let's talk about as you prepare to step into the presidency in July. I mean, obviously, people know you that you bring a very strong background in advocacy, especially for integrity of the profession. You've also co-chaired the academic law librarian special interest section white paper on continuing status and tenure, which is huge in the academic settings. So really kind of want to just step back. I know it's still early, but and I know they picked up the phone and called you a couple of years ago and asked if you would run for this. Now that you're on the doorstep, what's kind of some things that you want to have happen in your year?
yeah, I think, you know, I've learned so much this year being on the board, and one of my priorities, of course, is making sure that all of the good work that Jenny has done continues and the relationship building continues, and that the systems that she put in place to just make sure that people have a way to reach out and talk to us, and that those still continue to exist even after my term is over. I don't think it always feels like now is the time when we can see how important our profession is. And again, right now, I've never seen such an important time to be a law librarian. Doing what we can to preserve access to authoritative legal information feels so important, even more important with AI and how now it changes how we access, how we interpret, how we use legal sources. So just making sure that we keep that at the forefront of what we're doing in terms of my term feels really key. But it's the internal growth and development of AALL that I really want to ensure is solid and strong. The association has made a big difference in my career, the people I've gotten to meet, the people I work with, the options and opportunities that are available to me. I mean, a lot of that is, of course, the work that we do every day at our own institutions matters tremendously, but it's the connections that we make through different positions at AALL, either just attending conferences or serving on a committee, or if you're lucky to be in a leadership role doing that. So I want to really focus on making sure that AALL makes it abundantly clear on how you can engage with the association. If that's attending conferences, that can be making sure you understand the grants and scholarships that are available to you. But I really want to put systems in place that make it very transparent on how you can volunteer for a committee. How do you get chosen to chair a committee? What can you do to become a board member and serve on the board? Represents our members, and that people have a voice, and that people know what they can do to take on these roles because they're important, and they are really, it's a lot of work, but it's a tremendous privilege and opportunity to serve on the board or to serve as a chair of a committee. And I want to make sure that the people who want to do that are able to do that, and that people maybe who thought it didn't even know that it was a something that they could strive for, that there is actually a really clear pathway, that the ways things that you can do to serve as in AALL. So that would be my goal, is to strengthen our association by making sure that our members have really strong voices and pathways to join the association in any number of ways.
I love that with my whole heart. I can't wait to support you. This year wouldn't have been as successful without Jessica by my side and all the support from our board members. Like, this is a collective group project. It's a collective group effort. And I know that we're in the roles that we are for some. We wake up and you don't know what role you're going to be in, but this is the one that was chosen for us. And so I know that Jessica takes it really seriously, and so do I. That what a tremendous privilege and a gift it is to do that. And I see Jessica striving so hard to make these meaningful impacts, and I'm just so appreciative of her help. And I can't wait. I'm so excited for her vision to come forward. Okay, sorry, Marlene.
No, that's okay. And I mean, it sounds like you got some great goals to strive for next year. Well, before we get to our crystal ball question, so as leaders of AALL and librarians who obviously read all the time, what what are one or two of the must-read resources, committees or thinkers that you rely on to stay ahead of the curve in library administration and legal information?
Are you asking us for a book list? Okay, I'm here for it, Marlene. So for me, I zoom out a little bit. I think one of I love Dr. Brene Brown's Dared to Lead and the Braving framework she has for how to lead. And I feel like that because it's an act of service. And so I just like kind of zooming out, like how can we be of service when we're bringing ourselves into our workplace, but then also for the association and in librarianship in general. And then also, and did you know she started a brand new podcast with Adam Grant. So it's called The Curiosity Shop, and it's just launched. Like, I think they're on their fourth or fifth episode. So I don't know if you know, but like 10 years ago, they got into this like public kerfuffling in the New York Times about vulnerability and when it's appropriate to be vulnerable in the workplace and all that. Anyway, but now they've come back full circle together, and they're having such great conversations about leadership, about paradoxical thinking, making space for diverse voices, and what does that mean? And then accountability, but ethical integrity. It's great. So those would be the two things that would be on my bookshelf for you to share. Now, another time we can talk about the things we do for entertainment.
That'll be after recording. Jessica, do you have anything?
Well, I'll be honest. I have gone through many transitions the last few years, and reading is actually has not followed along. I have just not had the time. But what I do try to do is surround myself with people who I feel model the behavior that I want to engage in and listen and learn. And also, I listen to people who I disagree with and try to understand what their perspective is. So I'm not doing a lot of reading right now, reading in the future, but I
So
do.
I just want our audience to understand it's like that librarians do things other than reading
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah. But it is really for me because I don't have the time. It's really making sure I'm listening and watching people who I admire, see how they do things, how they handle situations, and adopt what works for me and what feels authentic to me.
All right. Well, now it's time for the the crystal ball question. Jenny, we'll start with you. Looking into the future, the next few years, what do you think is going to be the biggest shift for? And we can focus this on AALL numbers, but what do you see for the profession? Something that we need to prepare for now because it's going to hit us later.
Okay, I'm diving in here. I'm leaping off the cliff. Okay, let me do the crystal ball. Okay, this is a tough question. Thanks a lot. But I think the biggest shift that we're going to see is this fundamental reimagining of what it means to be a legal information professional in our AI integrated world. And not necessarily the technology itself, because I have faith that all of us, like you're doing it right now, right? We can beta test it, we can learn it because we're teaching it. And the best way to learn something is to teach it. But really kind of thinking about that identity question of who we are. Like, what do we uniquely offer? And how do we communicate that to the organizations and the communities and the institutions that we serve? We're already grappling with that institution right now. Like I see our members stepping up in all the spaces. You, Greg, right? Emily, all the folks in the firm world, all the people in academia who are doing the innovation labs and all those things, and people in the courts too. We're a little bit behind, but hey, man, we're still doing the best we can. But the law librarians are stepping in a leadership role there too. So I believe that like with my whole heart, as Jessica, I do talk about things with my heart, but I also have a brain too. But anyway, so the answer is not to compete with the technology. It's to lean more deeply into the things that we do, the critical thinking that we do, the ethical discernment, the human judgment about context and nuance and access and equity that I don't think algorithms can replicate. I mean, they can't, right? I mean, not yet, but the next generation of legal information professionals will need to be really fluent in all these tools, yes, but more importantly, they'll need to be anchored in our professional identity, our sense of purpose and service. And that's where AALL comes in. Our work over the next several years, we have to cultivate that foundation through educational programming, through advocacy, our pipeline, the ways that Jessica was talking about engaging our members to participate, because this is the community that we will build together where emerging professionals will feel like I am valued, I'm seen, and I'm supported, and I'm empowered to step into those leadership roles because the future is not something that will happen to us. The future is something that we're going to build together with
All right.
Aloha, I hope.
All right. Jessica, you probably
We never benefit
followed.
by going benefits talking after Jen.
Not true. Jessica's brilliant. She's amazing.
In a time of tremendous flux, it's really hard to know even where to think about or how to think about what it's going to look like in 5 years. I do think one of the things that we need to do is make sure that we're inviting the right people and voices in the room and that we don't always just lean on our traditional colleagues and allies and that we think about who else needs to join conversations as we watch our profession change, as we watch the way the legal industry is changing, it's going to be really important to be flexible and adaptable and welcoming, and like forward thinking about who do we need to talk to so that we are doing the work that we need to do and that we are teaching and training future lawyers to do the work that they need to do.
Well, Jenny Foster and Jessica Whytock, thank you both for coming in and giving us a look at what's happening at AALL and the upcoming conference in Cleveland. Thank you both for being here.
Mahalo, Greg. Will we see you there? Are you coming?
I'm coming. I will
All
be there.
right. Yay. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure. And thank you, Marlene. I'm sad
Thank
that we
you.
didn't get to see Georgie, though, but hopefully next time.
And thanks to all of you for listening to the Geek in Review. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with a colleague. We'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn and Substack.
And Jenny, one last time for the listeners who want to learn more, register for the upcoming annual meeting in Cleveland, where do they need to go?
Oh, to AALnet.org, but we have our conference site. But go to any AALL social, the LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, it's always there. And you're welcome. Come join us. We would love to see you there.
We'll
Aloha.
make sure we also put links on the show notes as well.
Okay, perfect.
And as always, the music you hear is from Jerry David DeSica. Thank you, Jerry, and goodbye, everybody.